loves, welcome back. So today I'm going to do a fertility question and answer video. If you guys are new, maybe watch some of my other fertility videos. Especially if you watch our first trying to conceive video, I feel like you can 100% see the difference from me then 2 years ago compared to now. So I would definitely would recommend watching that. The first question I wanted to answer, a lot of you guys asked how I was mentally, and you guys asked like what could you do to support me, and this made me cry. I was just so like taken back with how sweet you guys are and how much you do care about me, and it just makes me feel so loved and so appreciated. So thank you guys so much. I feel like mentally, I don't know if you guys can tell, I feel like I'm doing really well when it comes to fertility. I feel like I'm as positive as I can possibly be, and that doesn't mean that like I'm just happy all the time. I definitely have my days and my moments of just getting really sad and either crying or just kind of having like a moment where it's just like I just need to like be alone and just kind of feel all my emotions. I'm just grabbing a hair tie quick. But besides that, I feel like I'm doing well. The thing that I have done, which I think was another question, was like how do you cope with infertility? And for me, I've taken on this new found hobby of going to the library and just getting books on health and diet, or trying to, there's not really books on trying to conceive at our like library, because it's like a library sale where like people donate books and you buy them. But there are lots of books on pregnancy, and there are like chapters in them about like trying to conceive. I kind of figured like let's just use this time of trying to conceive as also a time to better my health and to learn as much as possible about like pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding. That way when we do fall pregnant, we'll be as prepared as we can be. I have not been diagnosed with anything that would basically cause infertility. The only thing that I possibly have is an autoimmune disease. I mean, I say I have an autoimmune disease, but the more I think about it, it's like the first time I got tested for it, it was negative. The second time I got tested for it, it was positive, and that was within like a week or so of each other, because they said if you test negative, then you have to get another test. And it's like, so it's kind of hard because I don't really understand like how that works, but I have always had like joint pain, which is what my result came back, is that I have an autoimmune disease, and that autoimmune disease is arthritis. So I've always had like joint pains, like my knees are really bad. I've always just say like I feel like an old lady in a 27-year-old body. So it would make sense that I do have it, but I don't know. If you have arthritis or an autoimmune disease rather, then it can cause you to have not a harder time conceiving, but it just takes longer to conceive. So that could be a possibility, but I've literally gotten everything tested. We've marked everything off that I could have, and I just don't have anything. The only thing I haven't gotten tested is my HSG, which would be basically they go in with a dye and then they see if your tubes are blocked. So that's something I think I'm going to do. Maybe I might schedule the appointment after this, maybe. I'll talk more about that though in a minute, because that does go into another question. It could definitely be hard seeing friends and family get pregnant. I think that for me, my initial reaction, like it always goes the same way. Like I'm sitting with a friend and they're like, guess what? And I just know deep down, and my heart kind of sinks a little bit, and I'm like, all right, like we're about to go on this roller coaster again. And I'll be like, you're pregnant. And they're like, yes. And my emotions go from like, oh, like I'm kind of heartbroken for myself, but then they spike back up to like, I'm so excited for them and I can't wait. I truly love like pregnancy. I think it's so beautiful. I love birth. Like I really enjoy talking to women who've been pregnant and like hearing their experience. Like I just think it's such a cool thing. So for me, it's like I get really excited and I just like want to know everything that they're going through and like feeling. So in that aspect, like it's great. But I usually will go home from, you know, finding out with them, and I cry, or like I call Connor on the way home and I'm like, oh, like guess who's pregnant? And then he's like, oh, that's great. And like we talk for a little bit about like how exciting it is for them, but then I'll be like, And now here I am, like still here. And I think what's hard too is everyone in my life has had a really easy time getting pregnant, with the exception of Connor's mom and also my mom, which is another question I will get into. So I feel like there's not really like any friend that I can just like go to and like easily relate to. I think when people approach it in a way where it's like, guess what, I'm pregnant, and they know all the hurt that you've gone through, it can be really hurtful. And I know it's such a hard situation because they're just so excited and they just want to tell you. But I think that you have to just be very careful with how you tell your friends that are trying to get pregnant. I've had a lot of like crazy situations that have left me like very distraught with people telling me because they just did it in like such a horrible way. And it really, like stuff like that really is challenging, and I feel for any of you who are going through that because it's definitely not fun. I got a ton of questions about if I would do IVF, IUI, adoption, if we've tried any fertility treatments. So we actually tried Letrozole, and if you guys don't know this about me, I am like a very like all natural person. Like I don't like medicine unless I need to take it. I think medicine is amazing for like things that like it has to be taken for, but if something could be healed with like food or something natural, I would much rather take it in that route. And I felt like ever since I was younger, I always had like really bad like stomach problems, and or if I had like anxiety and stuff, doctors would be like, here's medication, and I would be like, no, like I gotta figure this out on my own, and I always would. So I kind of feel the same way now. My doctor, before she even like did a ton of tests, she was kind of just like, we're gonna put you on this medication, and I was like, no, I don't want to be on medication. So she was like, well, when you're ready to go on it, let us know. So it was like about a year and a half of trying, and Connor and I were like, I guess we can try it, like what's the harm of it? It just didn't feel right when I was taking it. I just felt like God was like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So I took it. I was supposed to take it for 3 cycles. I only took it for 2. It was Letrozole. So you could either take Letrozole or Clomid, and it will help you ovulate. I already ovulate. My cycles are super regular. I'm very blessed in that sense. So if you do ovulate, it just kind of helps you to like super ovulate in a sense. So we tried it for the 2 cycles. My side effects were that I had, when I would take the pill, like the next morning I'd wake up with like a couple breakouts. I looked as though I was like 15 to like 18 weeks pregnant. It made me very bloated. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I got some headaches from it, but the worst part about it was that I had horrible pain when I was ovulating. And this was happening when we were in like the highest peak of snow. And my husband owns a snow plowing business, so I go with him and I do all of like the shoveling of sidewalks and steps and all that stuff. So I was like in the car, like doubled over in so much pain. I felt like I was gonna throw up, and I still had to like get out of the car, shovel. It's freezing, it's snowing. Like it was just not for me. I did not enjoy it. So that was our experience. It obviously didn't work for us. And I know people are going to be like, you should have just taken the 3rd cycle, but I just truly felt like it just wasn't going to help us. As far as IUI and IVF, that is not really like in my game plan right now. I think eventually it could be, but right now I'm just really focused on like how can we heal my body naturally through like food and taking new supplements, which I'll talk about. And stuff like that, and just making like changes throughout my environment. And then adoption is actually something that Connor and I had always like never really felt like adoption was for us, which I want to say like that is fine. I think people need to kind of normalize adoption not being for everyone, because people will put a lot of pressure on you. And if you are having trouble conceiving, it's like people just throw adoption on you. Like that's what you're supposed to do. And not everyone's fit for it. But I think right now, it's like we're only 27. I think we're a little young in our situation, but not everyone. Because I mean, someone could be like 23 and feel ready to adopt. For us, I feel like we're too young to start that. So I would personally probably wait Again, it's just in my mind, probably to more like 35 for that. But you don't know what God's gonna do. God could literally bring a child to us within the next week. You don't know. So I just say for IUI, IVF, and adoption, it's kind of like never say never and just trust God's plan. I follow someone on Instagram who actually that happened. She was trying to conceive and super randomly, like they were not looking into adoption whatsoever. A situation like that happened where like someone was like, I don't want to keep this kid, like, do you want him? And they were just like, oh, like he's perfect, like he fits with us and we're keeping him. And they now have a son. So you don't know what God's gonna do, basically. So talking about supplements, like I mentioned before, I started reading the book, It Starts with the Egg. Every girl needs to read this book. Like this should be handed out at schools. Even like boys should read it. I feel like it's just so good and so informative about the human body and how it reacts to certain things. So that book gave me a lot of insight, and I switched up my supplements. So now I'm taking a different prenatal. My doctor was like, oh, just go to Walmart, get a generic prenatal. And I was like, should it be folate or folic acid? And she's like, it doesn't matter, just get whatever. And like after reading this book is like, no, do not do that. That is horrible. So I feel like I've learned a lot. My supplements have definitely changed. I can link down below the prenatal that I'm taking now because I feel like it's really great. It has folate in it, but it's called methylated folate, I think, something like that, and that's the food-driven version of folate, and folic acid is in the synthetic form of it. So it's definitely really important to know what you're putting into your body. And this kind of goes into the next question, if I'm happy with my doctor or not. And unfortunately, I'm not very happy with my doctor, but that being said, I just feel like I've never really been happy with doctors. I feel like every time I go, I'm always getting brushed off. I have like questions that I just want to ask them, and I feel like they're just kind of like yesing me to death, or they're being like, you're fine, like everything's great, and like you don't need to worry, like you're gonna be pregnant next month, like don't even worry about that, like don't try this, don't do that. And it's just always like I feel like they're just rushing me, and even like just trying to get a hold of my doctor is a nightmare. Just to get my blood results, I had to call her 5 times. I left 3 messages, and it was like a couple weeks later I finally hear back from her. So I'm not very happy with that. I will probably go through my doctor one last time for my HSG test to see if my tubes are blocked. And then if they are blocked, obviously go through treatment with her. And then after that, I'm gonna call it quits probably. And try to find like maybe like private practice midwife or something like that. She is actually a midwife, the doctor I go to now, but I think that because it's in like a hospital setting, she kind of takes on the form of like a normal doctor. And don't get me wrong, she's very nice, but I just am not into the whole like hospital vibe. It just freaks me out and I just don't feel comfortable. This wasn't a question, but I wanted to add this in here because everyone always in the comments is like, it's Connor, like Connor's the issue, and Connor's not the issue. Connor had all of his tests done and he passed them with flying colors. They said that his numbers were like off the charts and so good, which again is such a huge blessing. We both feel really strongly that it's just a timing thing. Like we just feel like God has something planned for us, and we don't know what that is, whether it's like us moving somewhere, whether it's us starting a new business, and we just feel like there's something that's coming, and that's what's kind of holding us up on this whole end of things. And a lot of you guys did ask about Connor too, and like how he's doing through all of this. He is super positive, and he just feels exactly like how I just said. He's super just like trusting in God, and is just like, I know this is happening for a reason. I completely agree, but sometimes it's hard because then you see like these people who like just can't care for a child get pregnant, and you're like, but how are like they ready, or how is it their timing to have a baby? And like here we are so accepting and so ready, and we would be the best parents, and we're not. And so things like that definitely get really hard. I also wanted to add in this too. I think like the whole process is hard, but I think for me, there's a few people who, when I started trying like a couple months after they started, and like instantly got pregnant. and now they're on their second child and second pregnancy, and that is so hard. It's really hard to just be like, wow, like they've already gone through 2 pregnancies and I'm still in the trying to conceive club, and it's not fun. So, you know, it definitely gets really hard, but I think that just trusting that there's a reason for it, and just trusting that like God has something so incredibly, like, just you can't even think of it. He has something so amazing planned for you, and that's why you're not getting pregnant. And something amazing is going to come, something amazing is going to happen. And I think just holding on to that hope is so important, and that's what's helped me get through a lot of this. I always go back to this, but when Connor and I were dating for, I think, like 9 years before we got engaged, and I saw all these other people who were dating for months get engaged, and I was like losing my mind. I was like, why are we not engaged yet? I'm like, Connor, do you not love me? But looking back on it, and like everything worked out so perfectly in timing, and we had the most beautiful, magical wedding. Like, we just always look back to that day, and we're like, it literally felt like a storybook. And the way that people explain their weddings, they're like, I don't even remember my wedding. Like, I didn't even have time to eat. I didn't have time to like dance. Connor and I's was like, it was just not like that at all. Like, we remember every detail. We got to try all the food. We were dancing all night long. Like, it was just so magical and so perfect. And if our wedding was like that, it's just, we can't even imagine like what having a child will be like. So I think it's just really important to trust in God's plan and what he has for you, because it will be so incredible. So the next thing I wanted to answer was, if my mom had a hard time conceiving me, could it be genetic? So my mom actually had, it took her 3 years to conceive my sister and 8 years to conceive me. With that, it actually wasn't my mom. It was my dad that had the reproductive issues, and they had said to him, like, you probably won't be able to have kids. So everything like checked out fine with my mom. Luckily, it isn't anything that's passed down, and as I mentioned before, my sister gets pregnant like instantly. But that is it for the questions and answers. I definitely want to update you guys more about this. I just always am hesitant because I don't want to also do an overboard of like fertility stuff, but I feel like there's so many videos I could make, like a day in the life of like eating for trying to conceive, and I don't know, I feel like there's lots of things I could probably do. I just don't know like how much you guys want to follow me on this journey or not. But if there's any types of videos that go along with trying to conceive that you guys want to hear from me on, then let me know. I could even do like a video on the books, or I'll actually link some of the books down below that I've been reading too. Hope you guys are staying strong throughout this. If you guys ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I do want to say something really exciting is that one of my friends that I follow, we became friends throughout this whole journey. She started trying, I think like a couple months after Connor and I. She is now pregnant. She just told me this week, and I'm so excited for her. And then another woman that I follow, again, we've become friends. She just actually adopted a baby. She went through like, I think 4 miscarriages. She went through IVF, like she went through everything, and now she has her sweet little baby. So there's definitely a way. I think that we will all have our babies. There's a really special devotional actually that I wanted to do on the women in the Bible who were technically like barren, but they all got pregnant, like every single one of them. And I think that it's just a testimony and just shows that we will all one day be holding our children, whether it's through adoption, IVF, IUI, naturally, whatever the case may be. So just keep the faith and hope. But I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!